Welcome to Modern Britain, where headlines of this kind are becoming all too common. This week, it emerged that the killer of 16-year-old Harry Pittman, who died in a blink of an eye after being stabbed while out celebrating with his friends on New Year's Eve, the boy was also aged just 16. Now, he admitted stabbing Pittman, but argues it was self-defence. Last Thursday, a boy aged just 13 was stabbed to death inside his own home in Oldbury in the West Midlands. And 2 teenagers have been charged with his murder. But it's not just knives. Last March, 4 teenage gang members attempted to shoot and stab a man to death in broad daylight at an overground station in Hackney in East London. Now, afterwards, these killers, they didn't show any remorse. This is how they celebrated.
Straight in my skin. Got ripped, mama. I ripped up.
Just trying to put someone in a hearse. Carry on screaming, sits in the point. I'll slap me someone burst. You don't get put in a hearse. You won't get put in a hearse.
Well, they danced all the way to jail because they got 77 years between them. But look at this shocking knife crime data from the Youth Justice Board for the year ending March 2023. The latest data available. Youth arrests are up by 9%. Custodial sentences are up by 8%. And behaviour management orders, well, they're up by a staggering 32%. And those are the latest figures, but just imagine what they'll be like in March 2024 or even March 2025. We seem to be spiralling out of control. In London, children as young as 10 years of age now fear being stabbed. My 2 children, aged 10 and 15, they're among them. How many times must I walk my kids past a bunch of flowers tied around the lamppost and explain to them that somebody else has been pointlessly killed on the streets of Britain? For that reason, I believe it's high time to declare a youth crime emergency in the United Kingdom. How many more lives must be cut tragically short by tearaway teens before we have the guts to declare a national youth crime emergency? And now let's get the thoughts of my panel. And my panel tonight is the director for the Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, Adam Brooks, the pub owner and the businessman, and of course, Nina Mishkov, the broadcaster. So welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Let's start with you this time, Nina. The figures are staggering, they're shocking. We're seeing so many young people kill and be killed. And the problem I have with this is, have we totally lost any sense of respect for law and order? Is that what's driving it?
That's partially it, but I would put it down to, in general terms, parenting is not what it used to be. It absolutely is not. There used to be talk about kids in the old days, oh, he was badly brought up. You never hear that now. Look at that recent case with the 11-year-old boy who was caught up in the riots, and when it came to the court, his mum had gone off to Ibiza. I know that's one case, yep. But we're talking about parenting. Put that in a box. Then you look at 14 years of Tory rule. What did the Tories do in 2010, 2011, 2012? They dumped pretty much, dropped by 69%, the youth centres. All the places where kids could go, and the playing fields have been sold off. So there's nowhere for kids to go. Added to which, many years ago, before social media, the only influences that kids had on them were from their parents, their teachers, or their mates, and they'd fall in with the wrong crowd, perhaps. Now, through their phones, they have access to more of the wrong crowd. So you've got... there's everything there. There's porn, there's Andrew Tate. So all of these influences are very hard for a parent who is trying to do the right thing, the responsible parent, to battle against. Because first of all, they don't know what their kid's watching on their screens. Okay. And secondly, how can they counter that?
Mark Littlewood, so we've listed the Tories, of course, a lack of ping-pong tables, of course, Andrew Tate, social media. Are we ignoring something else, an elephant in the room here? We seem to have a huge cultural problem here. The facts are the facts, and the facts are not racist. I want to dive into this because I think we need to address this topic head on. Also, in that youth justice data I went through, there are some other startling facts and figures. Black children make up 6% of the population aged 10 to 17, but 12% of arrests and 26% of those children in custody, twice as likely to be arrested, 4 times likely to be incarcerated. Is that ping pong tables? Is that social media? Or is it something else?
No, I mean, I don't accept that a lack of government spending is what has caused this problem. The government has spent more money year on year across the board. You've got to make trade-offs. We're having all sorts of debates on GB News about whether pensioners or railwaymen should get the money. But the government itself spends an utter fortune on a whole range of welfare services.
Excuse me, Mark, but we were just talking the fact they cut it by 69%. So that's not a great deal of money. The money that was there was taken away. Well, to which they cut the police force. There are no bobbies.
Well, I'm taking from Martin's inference. I'm not totally persuaded that more ping pong tables and youth clubs would solve it. Well, that's what you get in youth centres. Would solve this problem. I think that the law and order and justice system in this country, not just for younger people, is practically broken now. It takes forever to get people to court. Our prisons are full. I think actually...
That's not the fault of the Conservatives.
Well, hang on. I mean, maybe it's the fault of Sir Keir Starmer. He's putting people in for Facebook posts, but not people...
Well, that's it. I also think we need to send fewer people to prison for longer, is my general rule of thumb. But I'd say this as well. One area of agreement with Nina is parental responsibility. And it might be that culturally that has lagged behind, but I actually think there should be legal requirements here. If your kid has done something completely out of control, I'm not holding you fully responsible for it. You can't completely control what your 13-year-old son does. But I think you should be in part answerable for it. I think you should be in court with the kid. And if you can't give an explanation, then there should be fines, punishments for the parents.
Yes. Adam Brooks, but how does that work if the parents aren't there? 95% of those in criminal gangs don't have an active father involved in their lives. 85% of young men in jail don't have an active father involved. We hear a lot about toxic masculinity. Andrew Tate, present, active, involved, positive role models, men don't get any talk about. You've spectacularly dodged the question there about the cultural issue. You have some experience in this.
We hold those people responsible.
Let's talk about it.
Look, firstly, I think we need to explain to the viewers that Andrew Tate is not a reason why people are carrying knives or stabbing people in this country. That's not the case. Look, I'm a very vocal knife crime campaigner. I've got skin in the game. My father was murdered by a machete gang when I was 11. I've been stabbed. I've been around pubs and clubs all my life. I unfortunately know more about this than most. We have got criminal gangs, young gangs, roaming the streets of London and towns with zombie knives, machetes and swords. And you're more likely to be arrested for an online Facebook post than some of those are. Now, we've got soft sentencing in this country. You know, we've had recent cases where people have been caught with machetes twice and they've still avoided jail. What is that about? Look, there's a lot to blame. Parents must take a lot of the responsibility. But our schools, why are they not teaching the consequences of crime? Now, if I was, say, the school minister, I would make every school take their kids to a prison once in their lifetime, scare them, show them what a prison cell is, tell them what the consequences of their actions will be. A lot of kids do not realise, they do not understand.
Don't you think that comes down to parents? It's up to parents to instil in their children the values and that actions have consequences.
What if they're not there? Absent parents is a huge issue.
Well, the thing is,
the David Lammy report addressed this back. This is years and years ago. If the parents aren't there to put that justice in, the state's meant to be the parents?
I noticed that when that 11-year-old kid was in court and the mother was absent, nobody said, "And where is his father?" I noticed that.
So, Martin, having been, I think, unfairly accused of spectacularly dodging the question, let me address it full on. Yes, of course, the lack of two active parents is often strongly correlated, not just crime, but, poor educational opportunities, long-term lower income. If the father can be identified and has not been active, I want to hear from this guy in court. Why your son's been going out doing this? You haven't spoken to him for 5 years. You haven't overseen it. You are partially responsible. I'm not saying you literally lock up the parents as well, but the inactive father should have to explain through the judicial process how he was being negligent.
The thing is with young teenage boys, I understand, is that if there is an imbalance in the family, if there is only one parent, it's generally the mother, OK? And what children crave, actually, are families.
Yeah.
They want a balance. You know, a family is two parents.
They're
it's
finding
a balance.
bad families on the street in the form of gangs.
But the thing, exactly, so that they need a tribe.
They find role models elsewhere.
Boys go into a pack mentality, tribal things. Girls, it's a different thing. Girls go inwards and they become more anxious, more lacking in self-esteem, and that brings mental health issues.
Look, I work a lot in boxing with community figures that are black and that will say to me, we've got a terrible black-on-black violence problem and black youngsters carrying knives. And that is black individuals in the community saying, Adam, we can say that, but if you go on telly and say that, there are going to be some that are going to call you racist. As you said earlier, the stats are quite alarming in that field.
But are you saying there's no white crime in terms of teenage boys?
Why would you say that?
No, I'm asking you a question.
You're trying to paint me as a racist.
No, I'm asking you a simple question.
Martin gave you the numbers, Nina. It's disproportionate.
No.
It's not that there's no white crime, it's proportionality.
Nothing is going to change until we can speak about that.
Yeah, and I'll give some more numbers now. Facts aren't racist. These are the facts.
No, I understand. I'm asking the question.
In London, black Londoners make up 13% of the population. They also make up 45% of London's knife murder victims, 61% of knife murder perpetrators, and 53% of knife crime perpetrators. There is an issue, and I just feel that we continually bury our head in the sands about it. The facts are the facts, and we can't address a problem unless we address it factually.
Martin, I remember growing up, looking at a police officer and thinking, oh, my God, I don't want any trouble there. I've got to respect them. They was all 6 foot tall, huge, and, you know, now some of our police officers can't even run five steps without, you know, being out of breath. They look terrible. They're not intimidating at all. And gangs look at that. They laugh on TikTok. They're mocking the police.
Yes, but the thing
and that is the society that we've
got.
Exactly
we don't have bobbies on the beat that we used to have. We don't have community policing. We don't have...
And there's too much form filling rather than actual police work.